Coming up on Network Africa. One day to the polls in Sierra Leone, tensions remain high as economy and safety take center stage for residents. Families separated as Egypt restricts entry from Sudan. Plus, at least 31 die in old mine in Free State, South Africa. Hello and welcome to Network Africa on Channels Television. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. We start off with the head of America's Agency for International Development saying or is trying to work with brave community-based volunteers to get the most needy. Samantha Power spoke of her frustration at trying to get assistance to the millions of victims of the war going on in Sudan as ceasefires are repeatedly broken. Ms. Power called on the civilian authorities to remove bureaucratic hurdles that are slowing aid delivery and costing lives. She also finds it heartbreaking that some people were fleeing to Chad for the fourth time in their lives because of the ethnic violence in Darfur. The war, which broke out in mid-April between rival military factions, has forced more than 2.5 million people to flee their homes. El Safi Mahdi was separated from his wife and 3 younger children on June the 1st near Sudan's border with Egypt. Well, he does not know when he'll see them again. Like many families fleeing the war in the capital Khartoum, Mahdi, a prominent music teacher and conductor, left home without a visa required for entry to Egypt. His elder sons, aged 19 and 17, needed their passports renewed, a task that became impossible as the conflict paralyzed central government offices. Mahdi and the 2 elder boys turned back to Port Sudan on the Red Sea coast, while the rest of the family headed north to Cairo. More than 2.5 million people have been uprooted by the conflict between Sudan's army and the paramilitary rapid support forces that erupted on April the 15th, including an estimated 600,000 who have crossed into neighboring states. Over 250,000 have crossed into Egypt, which on June the 10th began requiring that all Sudanese obtain entry visas. Previously, only men aged 16 to 50 needed visas, meaning that many women, children, and elderly crossed, while men stayed behind in the northern Sudanese town of Wadi Halfa, waiting for days or weeks to apply for visas at the Egyptian consulate. The United Nations has appealed to Sudan's neighbors to keep their borders open, even as it opens a humanitarian corridor to deliver food from southern Egypt to Wadi Halfa. Let's head to Sierra Leone, where people are rushing to the markets in the capital Freetown to stock up on food ahead of elections on Saturday. It follows a standoff earlier on in the week between the security forces and supporters of the main opposition party that reportedly left at least 1 person dead. A spokesperson for the opposition All People's Congress, CD Tunis, blames the killing on the police. Police Director of Operations Mohamed Jar said no shots had been fired by officers, accusing the protesters of firing the shots. According to him, 2 from a pistol and 3 from an AK-47. Businesses shut down briefly amid the chaos, and there is now a palpable fear that there could be further violence after Saturday's poll. As Sierra Leone goes to the polls to elect a president tomorrow, incumbent Julius Maada Bio seems to be the man to beat, even though he has a strong contender in Samura Kamara of the opposition All People's Congress. Tensions have been unusually high leading up to the election, with violence erupting near the main opposition party's headquarters earlier this week, resulting in at least 1 death.
Last week, the opposition party's office in Bo was burnt down by unknown assailants. Supporters of the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party, SLPP, remained resolute about going out to vote. A campaigner for the party, Agatha Martin, hopes for peaceful polls in the face of what she describes as provocation from the opposition. Recent violence has had a chilling effect on political discourse. Many self-identified APC voters declined to speak on record, citing fears for their safety. Those who did not speak, however, shared universal concerns for the economy and free speech.
And I believe, say, the economy for change, it will be a better one.
Kargbo also indicates his willingness to give a chance to the opposition.
If I will test Samuel Kama, and then I believe if he's able for fix him, then I will vote against him in the next coming 5 years.
These sentiments resonate within the backdrop of frustration over growing economic hardship in one of the world's poorest countries. Ahead of the poll, Information Minister Mohamed Rahman Swari calls for resilience from the business community.
Hope is here and there's light at the end of the tunnel. We are creating 500,000 jobs in 5 years. We are feeding Sierra Leone. We are upskilling people for digital engagements and more. So we really think there is a lot of hope ahead. The youth should not despair. They should not allow themselves to be misused by self-serving and desperate politicians who do not have a message, which is really the case for the most part.
Well, I think voting is a contract. I pledge my vote for somebody who will protect me and give me security, but I don't give you my vote to come and beat me. So I will look like a fool. So for that reason, I think I did not vote. I did not register. But I regret it because, I'm supposed to be registered to vote them out. Yes.
In spite of the ruling party's optimism, there's a palpable sense of disillusionment among some citizens. This will be the 5th presidential poll since the end of the civil war in 2002. Observers from the African Union and the West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS have issued a joint statement urging political parties and their supporters to abide by the rule of law.
Joining us now is Ahmed Nasrallah, President, Sierra Leonean Association of Journalists. You're welcome to Network Africa.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's get into it. How are Sierra Leoneans preparing for the election, including the government, media, and of course, international observers?
Well, I will start with the last one. I will start with the election observers. All of us, they all arrived here. We have teams of them from the EU. We have teams from the EU. We have teams from ECOWAS. We also have teams from the Data Center. With them stakeholders and the ultimate to pitch the questions, what are the issues, what are the challenges on ground from the stakeholders. Well, press conferences, we are the public about and through the media about their objectives as election observer mission. The media, we have that information is very integral and the journalists play a very critical role in these elections. And so what we have been trying to do, well, we know that from the 2018 elections, we know the role that information played in terms of come out and participate. And we also studied that manipulated information has been a very challenging issue for that election. And that time to now, we've seen more people now having access to the internet and using social media. And so that is also going to be a problem for this election. And for studies, we realized that manipulated content has been largely blamed for all the violent incidents that we've had in the last 2 to 3 years in Sierra Leone, from the Tumbo incident, the Makeni incident, the Lonsari incident, and then the recent 10 violent incidents last year. And so what we have done with support the UNDP and the NDI, National Democratic Institute, we have set up a super newsroom, and we basically charge the responsibility to counter disinformation and misinformation around the election. We have a team of fact-checkers in that room, led by UNDP, to fact-check stories around the elections and push them on the I-Verify platform, the dedicated platform that is being used in elections for the first time in Sierra Leone. So the platform is also interactive, allows the public also to go there and request and verify information and request that is verified. And on the other hand, we have the NDI version of that, which is also basically the same team, another team, based in Freetown, that is super newsroom. And we have smaller teams in the regions where we also have offices in the north, south, in the east, in the northwest. They all charged with the same responsibility, handling social media, doing social media monitoring, and picking out problematic content around the elections and verifying those elections, pushing them on our platforms right as possible. Because we know that the country, the bulk of the population in the country still rely on radio for their information. We are also using a network of radio stations under the Independent Radio Network, with a network of about 40 radio stations scattered across, and also broadcasting these messages in the local language so that people understand exactly what is going on and get information factual and correct. And so we are using that platform as well to also compile those stories for a week or on a weekly basis and putting them up that public in the rural area also get the information. That is what we have been doing in terms of providing access to credible information and accurate information around the elections that will make it.
All right, permit me to cut in there, Nasrallah, or Ahmed Nasrallah. Now, you've spoke extensively, but tell me, for whoever becomes president, what would be the main issue and challenges that will need to be tackled, in the country? Of course, we know there's tensions right about now leading to the polls, but
well, whoever becomes president will have to. First of all, I think the priority should be how we unify the country, because the elections have shown that this campaigning has shown that we are polarized along these two political parties, the main traditional political parties. And election, there is no issue-based discussion around the elections. Campaign messaging are mainly based on ethnic rhetoric and religious sentiments, and that is bad for our democracy, and continues to divide us and push us to see us as two different sets of people. So that is one priority for the new president that will come in. The other one is the economy. We have to fix the economy. A lot of hardship is going on right now. Prices are going on high. You know that take that in isolation from what is happening, what is happening from the COVID-19 pandemic and also in Russia war. But we had here, people are grumbling every day, and so that is any government that will come.
All right, so thank you so much, Ahmed Nasrallah, the President, Sierra Leonean Association of Journalists. We thank you for your thoughts on Network Africa.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
The UN Humanitarian Agency has issued an urgent appeal to help millions of people in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where chronic violence and displacement continue to fuel a dramatic hunger crisis. According to the UN World Food Programme, since March 2022 alone, 5.7 million people have been displaced in the eastern provinces of Northern Kivu, Southern Kivu, and Ituri. Due to the lawlessness associated with some 120 non-state armed groups, the UN agency says it has struggled to deliver vital relief to vulnerable communities where negotiating access is an ongoing challenge.
About 5.7 million people have been displaced since March 2022 in North Kivu, in South Kivu, and in Ituri. 6.3 million people have fled their homes across the country, and that is the highest number of people who have been displaced in Africa. The country is continental in size, with acres of space, but millions of people have no choice but to live in very overcrowded and squalid camps. DRC, as some of you may know, is a country of binary oppositions. A country that produces the most precious metal in making the latest technologies, has the highest number of food insecure people worldwide. Approximately 25.8 million people will face acute food insecurity in 2023. It takes WFP on a very good day 4 days to deliver food assistance from Goma, which is the capital in the east, to a place called Beni, which is 241 kilometers away. But it is taking us between 3 to 4 months to do so today because of insecurity.
When we come back on Network Africa, at least 31 people die in an old mine in Free State, South Africa. Please join us again. Welcome back. Over in South Africa, at least 31 individuals believed to be illegal miners have tragically perished in a ventilation shaft located in the Free State. The Mineral Resources and Energy Department has confirmed receiving a distress report from neighboring Lesotho indicating that this devastating incident occurred on May the 18th at the Virginia mine. Although 8 bodies have been successfully recovered and brought to the surface, the government deems it too hazardous to dispatch a search team into the shaft due to dangerously high levels of methane present. In the light of this, authorities are currently exploring alternative strategies to retrieve the remaining bodies and bring closure to the heartbreaking situation. Let's go to Pemba Secondary School in the province of Cabo Delgado in northern Mozambique, where about 24 students fainted en masse during classes. Authorities there confirmed that the fainting spells had mainly affected girls during lessons. Officials say those affected by what seemed to be a contagious phenomenon showed signs similar to those of an epileptic attack. All the students have all recovered and are reported to be well. Provincial Chief Physician Edson Fernando believes it may be related to some kind of hysteria causing a ripple effect of emotion. This is not the first time there have been spells of mass fainting at schools in Mozambique, with incidents further south in 2010 and 2018. Investigations into the phenomenon are currently ongoing. The President of the African Development Bank, Akumi Additional, aimed at rich countries whose financial commitments to Africa, some dating back to 2009, had not yet been honored. He was speaking ahead of talks at the summit for a new global financial pact in Paris, France. In his words, quote, Africa alone loses $7 billion to $15 billion a year because of climate change, and that's going to rise to almost $50 billion a year by 2040. So the world has to meet its commitment. He pointed out that it's a very small amount of money compared to the scale of the problem, but not meeting it will generate a crisis of trust in developing countries. French President Emmanuel Macron has been hosting over 50 heads of state, world finance officials and activists at the summit, which is seeking better responses to tackle poverty and climate crisis issues by reshaping the global financial system. Developing nations have pointed out that systems in the USA, Europe, and other big economies have caused most climate damage, but leave the poorest countries to deal with the consequences of the climate crisis. Following the success of the maiden GTEX Africa show in Morocco, organizers of what is now the biggest tech event on the continent have announced the show goes on next year in the same city of Marrakesh. This announcement may come as a disappointment to those who want to see the show hold in Lagos, Nigeria. However, many Nigerian startup founders and thought leaders praise the impact of the event regardless. The show, which has its origin in the UAE, or the United Arab Emirates, enjoys the backing of the government, which says it has interests in the African tech ecosystem. Correspondent Mayowa Adegoke captures this in this report.
Africa's tech players are fast adopting AI to address challenges in sectors such as agriculture, finance, health, and education, as seen at the maiden GTEX Africa show in Morocco. With an attendance rate of over 32,000 from 128 countries, organizers say their expectations have been surpassed, and the ripple effect will catalyze growth, network, and funding for the African tech ecosystem.
If you've gone into the startup section, the pure raw energy is palpable. I don't think if you can find this level of curiosity and energy and dynamism anywhere else in the world of any startup show. And I think this is strong testament of the interest of the talent coming out from Africa.
Worst thing, it's like, but it succeeded because I didn't go after their headquarters.
Supported by the Dubai and UAE governments, GTEX, which has grown to become the leading tech show in the region over the past 4 decades, lent its first international expansion as a platform for the Middle Eastern governments to engage with the tech ecosystem on the African continent.
The UAE is always known to invest in the future and to place its bets in the right way to be able to forecast where the future is heading. And if you were going to choose a place that is best suited for the future of the digital economy, for the future of technology in general, no better place comes to mind than the African continent. So we're very excited. I think you can see from the success of this event, the number of people that are here, the number of countries that are participating, the incredible impact that this decision was the right decision.
Many startups showcasing their solutions at the event are also pitching for partners and investors, building networks that will help them scale for impact and revenue.
We've seen startups, government delegates, as well as corporates talking about collaboration, using African talent, and also setting up base in Africa. I think it's been a very good exercise from an academic point of view, also from a capacity building point of view.
Pushed you on that path, because I think we've all had closing doors moments.
Daniel Smaller, one of the over 200 investors at the show, is impressed with this first outing and shares his thoughts on the startups he has met and potential for them to get funding.
And I only saw 10 out of hundreds. But I think I was very impressed with how they presented themselves. And they learned a lot. Hopefully I gave them feedback on how to present themselves and some of the ideas and some of the issues that they have, and what they were looking at and their valuations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I was very impressed with the show, how Morocco presented itself, but also what I saw in terms of the opportunities for investment.
With this successful edition, organizers have now gone ahead to announce dates for the 2024 edition, which will hold again in Marrakesh, Morocco. Maya Wadegoke, Channels Television.
A total of 227 migrants were rescued on Thursday near Spain's Canary Islands, one day after migrant charities said they feared more than 30 migrants had died after their inflatable dinghy sank on the same route. The Canary Islands off the coast of West Africa have become the main destination for migrants trying to reach Spain, with a much smaller number also seeking to cross the Mediterranean Sea to the Spanish mainland. On Thursday afternoon, 49 sub-Saharan men, 7 women and 3 minors traveling in an inflatable dinghy were intercepted and taken to a port by the Spanish Coast Guard vessel Macondo. It was the 4th boat rescued near the Atlantic Ocean islands in less than 24 hours. Summer is the busiest period for all attempted crossings. And that's it on the program Network Africa. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Baluga.